Hi everyone, this is Tiro. While I have a minute to myself, I'm going to try to tell you a testimony that I have. And I don't think I had any testimonies, but when I'm talking to people and sharing with them and coming up with things that I totally forgot that would be really a great testimony to share with somebody who might be in the particular situation themselves. So, y'all know that I have a ministry called Comfort Ministries, and it is still running. It changes all the time. It's not just working with women, it's a lot bigger and broader than that. But I want to tell you about something that happened, and it's all about when I really started listening to the voice of God and learning about discerning, when He was talking to me and when He wasn't, and when it was me, what I was wanting to do, and when it was Him that was wanting to do something through me. Discerning is so important. It's something that we all should pray for, to receive that discerning spirit, so that we know that we know that we know when we're doing things and working for Him, we can know that we're doing the right things and doing things in His time and not ours. And I had a real big lesson in that one time. I was working with a girl who was a pretty heavy drug addict. And, at the beginning, she would go to church with me and go to Bible study, and it just seemed like she was doing pretty good. And then all of a sudden I could just notice some changes in her, and it really worried me. And as we went along, I just knew that she was falling back into her addictions, and I kept reaching out to her and just really asking God what I should do for her. And when you are a very heavy drug addict, it's not as easy what people want to make it to seem like. It's breaking that habit is not that easy. But at one point, I remember her sitting on my back porch, and she had been with me for a few days, so I knew that she was clean. And she had just taken a shower and washed her hair, and she was just sitting out there at my table outside, and had this peaceful look on her face. And all of a sudden she said to me, "I feel the wind." I said, "What? What do you mean?" She says, "I can feel the wind." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And she said, "When you are so heavy on drugs, all you can think about is your next fix and where you're going to get it, how you're going to get the money for it." She says, "You never have time to stop and see God's glory and simply feel the wind blowing on your face and in your hair." And I looked at her, and it just seemed like the wind was blowing, real slowly in her hair. And she looked so beautiful. But that was the first evening that God gave me a vision. Now, I don't get visions very often, but this is a vision that I have seen coming true every time I see her now. I saw her all dressed up in fine clothing, like she had some important job that she was going to, dressed very nice and very put together. And even the way that she was talking and moving around, she looked very professional. And I shared with her the next day what I had seen. And I said, "This is going to be you someday." And she would look at me, she'd say, "Well, I hope so." And some time had passed, and I lost track of her for a while. And we had gone to try to get her in a rehab center. Oh my gosh, this was like the most horrible thing. And we went, and at first they told us that they didn't have any beds for her, okay, and that she'd have to be put on the list. So we got her on the list, and a month went by, and I kept trying to keep tabs on her, and I kept losing track of her, and all I could do was just pray that I could find her. One Sunday morning I went to church, and on my way to church they called and said they had a bed for her. I was like, you're kidding me. So I went to church, and I sat through church, and I prayed and prayed and prayed after church. And this is the first time that I truly remember hearing God's voice so loud and clear. He was like, go get her. Well, I found out she was living in a town about 45 minutes away from me. I didn't really know how to get to the town, but I was sure that that's what God had said. So I got one of her friends. I said, we're going to go, and we're going to find her. And she kind of looked at me like, really? You're just going to go there, and you think you're just going to find her? I said, no, God's going to lead me to her. So we went to her cousin's house, and he didn't know where she was. He knew some of her hangouts, so we went to every single one of them and couldn't find her anywhere. And I know that they were losing hope in me and thinking that I was probably a nutcase. I said, you know what, the next person I see on the street, you can pretty much tell if someone's a heavy addict or not. So I was like, I'm just going to pull over and I'm going to ask them if they know her. Because it was kind of a small town. Everybody knows each other. And so I did. I stopped a young man and I said, do you know this person? He's like, the name. I said, so I told him her maiden name. He's like, oh yeah, I know her. I saw her the other day walking down the street with this guy. And her cousin was like, I know that guy, he is her dealer. And so we found out where he lived. And I pretty much knew that she was probably there. Now this is the crazy side of me. When I get on a mission, I go full force. So here I am. This blonde-haired lady who just came from church, knocking on the door of a drug dealer's house. I had no fear. I didn't. I knew that God was with me, and I knew that this is what He wanted me to do. And I pounded on that door. Bang, bang, bang. And he says, go away. That's what the guy said. I said, no. He says, who do you want? I said, I want you. He says, go away. I said, no. I want Ashley. I know she's there. Oops, what's her name? I said, I want her. And he said, she's not in here. I said, yes, she is. I know she is. So then, I told a little fib, because I hollered at her, and I said, I've got some important news to tell you about your son. Because I knew that's where she was really, I knew she'd come running. She'd come running out of the house so fast, and into my arms, and I said, honey, I am so sorry. I said, it was the only way I knew that you would come out of the house. I said, they have a bed for you. And we have to go today. She went right in and got her clothes. And even her dealer gave us some money. It's just kind of odd. And the next 2 or 3 days were just so stressful, and so I had to totally depend on God and what He said to me, and be in constant prayer. So we go to take her to the place, and she had some papers together. You had to have permission from your doctor. I'm like, what? Your doctor is the dealer on the end of the street. Do you want him to write a message for you, or what? All she had was some paperwork from her OB/GYN doctor because she just had a baby. Well, that wasn't good enough when we got there. And they're like, well, we can't take her. I said, if we get the paperwork, can we come back tomorrow? And they were like, well, I can't promise you that there's going to be a bed open. I was furious. Here they get our hopes up, and we go do all that, and no bed. So I was really frustrated. And so all I could think to do was just to pull out all stops. I prayed and prayed and prayed some more. And I went back in, and I said, I want to talk to the nurse in the back. And they got her on the phone for me. And I said, look, if you don't get her in, then she may die. And she may die tonight. I don't know. If I lose track of her tonight, she may overdose. And I'm going to put it right back on you guys. I said, I got your name. I know all about you guys. I'm going to put it back on you. And then I started crying. I said, you don't understand how hard it's been to get her here tonight. And it was. I mean, we had to beg and borrow money to get there and to pay her fee just to get in. I mean, I was so distraught, but I was so angry too that they had to have a certain paperwork and they didn't send that to us, and it had been a month. Well, after telling the nurse that, she's like, hang on just one moment, please. And so I hang on, and pretty soon I see this woman coming down the hallway. And she said, here's her paperwork. If you can get her to the emergency room somewhere where she can get a physical, come back tomorrow, we will have a bed for her. I was like, you promise me that you will have an open bed for her? Yes, they said. So we went on home. I had to run some errands, so I told her to meet me at the emergency room, and we would do, physical and all that kind of stuff. She showed up, got the physical, which took like forever, and then I got to worrying about, what if she takes off tonight? Because she was really ready to go in during the day. She was ready. She'd set her heights on it, and so I thought, well, maybe I can talk the hospital into letting her spend the night. I don't know, it's worth a try. Anything's worth a try to save someone's life from overdosing or anything like that. And so the only way they said that they possibly could keep her was if she went into the psych ward for the night. And I was like, fine, whatever. And so they came down and evaluated her. They said, we don't think she's suicidal, we don't think that she's a risk, we can't keep her. And I was like, you have to keep her, you can't just let her go. You don't realize what's riding on this. And so I had to fight back and forth with the people at the hospital, and finally I had to pull out that I'm going to hold you responsible thing again, which worked again, thank the Lord. And so she spent the night there. But the other half of her life, the other person in her life, kind of was working against me and trying to convince her that, oh, you'll be okay, I'm going to get out pretty soon and I can take care of you and all that. So when I went to pick her up in the morning, she just looked different. And, oh man, I just knew all the way down there in my spirit, I just knew she's not going to do this. She's not going to do it. I knew she's not going to do it. But I trudged on, instead of just stopping and talking to her, I just trudged on. Because that's what I do sometimes when I don't listen to God. So we get there. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And it's just like, I can't do this. I was so angry. First, I got out of my car and I went down this little hill where there's like a big area, and I just started screaming because I was so angry. And I came back to the car. I said, get out of the car. And her eyes got very big. She's like, what do you mean? I said, get out of the car. And I opened the trunk and I started throwing her stuff out. I was kicking it. I was just acting like a fool. I said, you're going to find your own way home. I'm not taking you back. And I was bound and determined, And all of a sudden she just breaks down and tells me what had happened the night before. And I knew in my heart she wasn't going to stay. I should have talked to her before we even drove all the way down there again. And so I brought her back. And but I always still have had this vision in my brain about her. And she's come in and out of my life for, let's say it's been like about 3 or 4 years. She's been in jail and out of jail and house arrest and back in jail, and she's out right now. And I see her at church. And every time I see her, she looks more and more like the vision God had given me. When we don't listen totally to God, and we try to do some things on our own, we really mess things up. Like, for instance, I should have just listened to him when he was telling me, she's not going to stay. She's not going to stay. But I was like, no, she's going to stay no matter what. You can't force somebody to do things. It's like so many people trying to force God on somebody by telling them they're going to go to hell and die a horrible death so that they'll change their ways. And I don't think it's that effective. I think Jesus wants people to come to know him because of his love and mercy and grace, not because we scare him to death. I learn more and more every day about how to discern and how to listen to God's voice and how to know when it's God's voice. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past. A lot. But now, when I listen to him, and I make sure that I'm really listening, I don't make so many mistakes. When you have a discerning heart, it requires total humbleness on your part to God. Being humble before him and saying, I can't make this decision. I need for you to make this decision and tell me and lead me. Totally trusting him that he's going to do that. That way we're walking in the spirit and not in the flesh. So that's my testimony for tonight. I think I have a lot more inside. So you might be hearing a little more about my crazy times and the times I've learned to listen to God, which are more often now than they've ever been, because he's a mighty and awesome and wonderful God. And I am so grateful to have him. This is Jura. God bless. Good night.